Bruce, I know you had an Islander fan in your family growing up, and I'm just making the comparison here between those great power plays in terms of percentage basis and how your team is scoring. It's virtually in lockstep now. You think back of that era, how power plays were designed, engineered, executed, and how it is today with your team?
Well, I think back then there was more drop-off, backdoor, overload they called it, less of a 1-3-1, and a lot more point shot, D to D, than maybe to the elbow. And then at least one or two guys in front, from how I recall. A little more low to high driven than on net, whereas now I think you see a lot more power plays. Certainly always the half wall was a big thing. But, you know, there's, I would guess, more net front tips, rebounds back then, and now I'd say more one-timer seam passes, simply because I don't think too many guys one-timed it very often back then. I mean, Bossy was the big guy on their power play, probably a wrist shot more than anything. Gillies in front, if I recall, or Tonelli, and probably Trottier running it. Potvin obviously shooting with Thomas Janssen, maybe. Sorry.
During a playoff series, when you notice something in a team's game and you make adjustments, whether it's on the power play or when you see something in a goalie, what's that process like from game to game in terms of adjusting to those things but also not changing too much of your own game?
Usually it's, you know, we get video from everything. So, I mean, there's iPads on the bench, so they can do it in-game with the assistant coaches. I don't do it. I don't look at an iPad in-game, but Joe and Jay and Kevin will at times, especially in timeouts. Players want to look at it. They're more receptive to that type of feedback. They're used to video. And then in between games, we'll have a discussion with them. They tend to see a lot of it themselves, and they'll want to go back and look and say, hey, can we take a look at that? What do you think? So we kind of provide the information. A lot of the ideas come from the players. We have our own ideas, obviously, but you know, with our group, the most adjustments are usually Bergeron's line, and they're students of the game. I'm not saying the other lines won't, but those are the guys that probably delve in the most.
Back left, standing up.
Bruce, you've described Charlie McAvoy as an instinctual player who just goes out and plays. What does that reveal about his processing power, the way he sees and the way he thinks about the game?
Well, he's at a high level, Fluto. I mean, there's a lot of guys like that. Usually the best ones are, you know, they see the game in real time and off they go. Again, we give them tendencies, but some of those players are better off not being overly structured. And there's other guys that are better with structure, and you got to kind of figure out common ground there. You can't just, I don't think you can let a guy go reckless. But Charlie's that guy that we try not to constrain with, you know, this long rim tonight's going to be the first, you know, we'll tell him, and part of the video, obviously, but for him, I think it's, if you see a play you think you can make, we've given him the green light to make it. You hope it works out more times than it doesn't. When it doesn't, then we got to sit down and probably get him back on track type of thing, a little more structured. And there's a few guys, Marshy's like that. It's tough to, you know, sort of, some of the plays he makes out there are all on his own instincts, and again, they're working out more than they're not. And we just got to be guard against that other guys don't turn into Marshy and McAvoy that don't have those instincts. I think that's your challenge as a coach.
Right side, second row.
Bruce, Johansson's story has kind of been lumped in with Coyle, you know, because of just the way they arrived in midseason, whatever. But if you separate that out, what would you say about why he's been able to assimilate so well on your team and kind of the impact he's been able to have, particularly in the playoffs? What is it about him and what's allowed that to happen?
Well, he's a smart player. He's been around the league, so he has relationships. I think the guys that have been around the league have relationships with other players, so I'm sure he knew some of the Nordstrom a little bit, maybe some guys from his past. But he's an easygoing guy. He's not a guy that came in and demanded certain things. He's a little more laid back, not as forceful, I think. So at first, I think it was a challenge for him to see where he fit. To be honest with you, and he had injuries. He was sick for a while, so we moved him from left to right. But at the end of the day, once he got comfortable, and I think that's Marcus, he's, you know, once he was comfortable in the group, it can be an intimidating group, I think, even for guys that have been around the league. You get Z and you get Berge in there that are who they are. So I think once he got through that and felt like he could help the team and he was contributing on a regular basis, then he keeps moving up and up. I think that's just the confidence level of how he feels inside our locker room now. And but it took him a while to get there, and through really no fault of his own. Like I said, he got hit hard by Ferland, so that took him a while to get in.
We'll do 3 more questions. Back right.
Bruce, there was a general consensus coming out of the locker room. Players saying that we can be much better.
from Game 3 into this game. How do you handle that? What are you looking for from your team tonight, knowing they're going to come at you with everything? And also, is there any update on Matt Grzelcyk or Kevin Miller?
Nothing new to report on either of those. They're obviously not playing tonight. We'll get back to Boston, see where Grizz is at. He's better than where he was, so there's a chance for him. And then tonight, listen, they're going to come out. I don't think they're going to deviate from how they've had success. They've been down in a series, the previous one, 2-1 to San Jose. So I'm sure they have confidence they can come back and win by playing their game. Every team kind of tweaks certain things. I suspect they might, do a few things different. Could be their lineup, their lines. But in general, how they play, I don't think will change. So our guys got to be ready to support the puck, break the puck out in a hurry, because I think they always want to establish forecheck. We did a better job with that. Some of it was just getting it out in the neutral zone into foot races. The Corrali goal was a result of that. We try to back them off with, if they're going to finish hard, then let's make them turn and go back before they can hit us. Usually that's good support. Usually that's execution, and then foot speed. So we're going to try to do a lot of the same in that regard. And then you got to finish your plays, and we did early on. We were fortunate. We finished the plays we needed to. But I don't think we were great the other night. I don't think it was a 7-2 game personally. I thought we executed well when we had to finish plays, but that's not always going to happen. So we got to be prepared to be in a close game again.
Two more left side, second row.
Is there anything new with Chris Wagner and how he's progressing? Is it possible he could be back at some point if the series goes long enough?
Yeah, he's here. He's working out with the team. He's not on the ice yet. Obviously, I can give you a better update once he starts practice. And until he's on the ice, we're, I don't want to say out of sight, out of mind, but they're just not that close until they're on the ice.
Yesterday, their coach, for lack of a better phrase, whined about the officiating. Will that cause you to seek out some kind of discussion with the officials or supervisor, just maybe to offset that, or you just let it go?
No, if we have a beef, Mike will bring it up generally with the supervisor. He meets, day of a game, I think is when we do it. I didn't have too many beefs the other night. Apparently they did, so they voiced theirs. But no, we're going to be ready to go. And like I said, if they take penalties, hopefully we can capitalize in the power play. It's one way to sometimes dampen their enthusiasm with their physicality. If you make them pay in the power play, and that's our ultimate goal. But we're ready for a physical game, and we're not going to concern ourselves with the officials until they stink, and we got to. They go against us, right? So right now, like I said, I thought, what did we kill the other night? Five penalties. They killed 3. One was their own call. They challenged the play. So really, they only had 3 infractions against them at the end of the day. So I'm not sure they favored us in any way, to be honest with you.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.